You've heard the whispers. You've felt the weight of the world on your shoulders. Sometimes, you wonder if anyone truly sees you. You've asked yourself, why does it feel like the universe has forgotten me? You've prayed, cried, and fought for a break. But it seems like all the doors are locked. Have you ever been at a point where nothing makes sense? When the very idea of a brighter future feels like a distant dream? You may be questioning your purpose, feeling the sting of loneliness, or doubting whether your efforts will ever lead to anything meaningful. You're not alone. This is a journey that many of us walk. But there is a promise, one you might have forgotten, buried beneath the rubble of your struggles. Your name is forever engraved in the heart of the one who sees all. It's easy to believe when things are going well, but what about when the world seems silent? What about when you feel abandoned, misunderstood, or like you're invisible? When you feel like God has turned his back on you, it can be painful, even unbearable. But let me ask you this. What if, just what if, this moment is not a sign of abandonment, but a sign of something greater? What if, in this very silence, something powerful is happening within you? There's a truth that many people miss when they're walking through their darkest days. It's the simple yet profound realization that the quiet times are often the places where the deepest transformation happens. Like the caterpillar that must surrender to its cocoon before it can become the butterfly, you too are being shaped by unseen forces. But here's the catch. You may not see it now, but this struggle, this waiting period, is not a punishment. It's preparation. You are being prepared for something extraordinary, something that will not just change your life, but the lives of those around you. You see, God has not forgotten you. In fact, you are forever etched in his heart. And this journey, the one filled with doubts, fears, and uncertainty, is not a detour. It's the path that leads you to the greatest revelation of all. The truth that your struggles are the birthplace of your strength. The truth that, through it all, you are being refined, and that the pain you're feeling is the fire that forges your character. But you might ask, how do I hold on when it feels like I'm falling apart? How do I keep going when the weight of the world seems too heavy? It's in these very moments that the light you seek will be found, not in the absence of darkness, but in your ability to rise above it. In the next chapters, you'll walk with me through a journey that will challenge your perception of pain, struggle, and purpose. You'll come to understand that every tear you've shed has been noticed, that every moment of doubt has been a stepping stone toward your transformation. Your name is written on his heart, and no matter how far you stray or how lost you feel, he has never turned away. Are you ready to take the first step? Are you ready to walk into the light that has always been there, waiting for you to embrace it? The journey ahead is not for the faint of heart, but for the chosen ones. Those who, despite their pain, are willing to rise and claim the promise that is theirs by divine right. Stay with me, for the next chapters will reveal something that could change your life forever. It might not be what you expect, but it will be exactly what you need. Have you ever stood at the crossroads of your life, paralyzed by uncertainty, feeling like no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to find your way? It's as though the world is moving on and you're stuck, unable to move forward. This feeling is something that many of us can relate to. It's a place we've all been at some point in our lives. You're not sure if the decisions you're making are the right ones. You're caught in a loop, doing the same things, but wondering if there's more to life than this. Doubt becomes your constant companion, lingering over every choice you make. Have you ever wondered why it feels like everything is happening for everyone else except you? Why is it that no matter how much you try to move forward, your feet seem stuck in quicksand? You've seen others achieve what you've always dreamed of, yet you can't even get close to your goals, let alone reach them. That feeling, that nagging voice inside your head, is doubt. Meet Alex, They are just like you, perhaps even like the person sitting next to you right now. Alex had lived their life in a constant state of striving. They believed in working hard, putting in the effort, and making sacrifices. They were always looking for the next step. But after years of struggle, Alex found themselves at a standstill. Every day felt the same. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. The cycle was suffocating. Alex had once been full of hope and dreams, but over time those dreams had faded, replaced by a creeping sense of exhaustion. Nothing seemed to move, nothing seemed to change. Alex felt trapped. They had no answers, no direction, no purpose. And worse yet, every day the same question echoed in their mind. Why am I still stuck here? They had tried everything. They'd worked tirelessly, spent countless nights and weekends dedicated to their goals, yet nothing seemed to move the needle. They thought they were doing the right thing, but the harder they tried, the further away their goals seemed to be. And no matter how much they achieved, the feeling of emptiness never went away. Does this resonate with you? Have you ever poured everything you have into a dream only to watch it slip further from your grasp? Have you questioned your worth, your abilities, your purpose? If you have, you're not alone. Alex's story is the story of many of us. The struggle to move forward, the frustration of seeing others succeed while you're stuck, the overwhelming feeling of being left behind. But what if everything you're going through right now is leading you to something greater? What if the doubts and challenges you're facing are not signs of failure, but steps toward the most important transformation of your life? Alex didn't know it yet, but their journey of struggle, confusion, and uncertainty was laying the foundation for a massive shift. Just like you, Alex didn't realize that the pain of being stuck wasn't a punishment, it was preparation. And as much as they wanted to escape this phase, it was the exact thing they needed to grow. Let's take a moment to pause. Are you ready to step into your own transformation? Are you willing to face the challenges that seem to stand in your way, knowing they will lead you to something greater? Alex wasn't ready at first. They resented the struggle. Every moment of doubt felt like a personal failure. But this period of struggle wasn't just a random stretch of hardship. It was the universe's way of reshaping them. Even though Alex couldn't see it, everything was happening for a reason. One day, as Alex sat in a quiet room, surrounded by their scattered thoughts and the weight of their own doubts, something shifted. It wasn't an immediate change. It wasn't a dramatic moment. It wasn't the loud, clear voice that they expected to hear. It was a quiet realization. What if the struggle was just a part of the process? What if they didn't have to fight every step of the way? What if, instead of looking for immediate results, they focused on learning from the journey itself? What if the answers weren't in the destination, but in the growth along the way? That was the turning point for Alex. They didn't suddenly become successful or have all their problems solved, but they started to see their struggles in a new light. Instead of being obstacles, they began to view them as opportunities for growth. This is where you are right now, aren't you? You're at a crossroads in your life, just like Alex. You're uncertain, unsure of what comes next. But let me tell you something, the path forward is already there. It's not hidden from you, nor is it waiting for some magic moment to reveal itself. It's being revealed through the struggles and doubts you're facing right now. Alex began to understand that sometimes the answers don't come when you demand them. They come when you're willing to sit with the discomfort, to accept the uncertainty, and to trust that the process is unfolding as it should. You might be thinking, but how can I trust a process that seems to be taking so long? How can I keep going when every attempt feels like it's getting me nowhere? The truth is, life doesn't follow our timeline. It doesn't care about the deadlines we set or the pace we want to move at. What it cares about is the depth of our commitment to growth. The universe isn't just concerned with where you're going. It's focused on who you become on your way there. Alex realized that the key wasn't trying to force progress or beat the clock. The key was to embrace the struggle and trust the timing of the universe. As they did, a sense of peace washed over them. Not because everything was perfect, but because they realized they didn't need to have all the answers. They just needed to keep moving forward, one step at a time. And that's where you are now. You are on the verge of discovering something extraordinary about yourself. The struggles, the doubts, the uncertainty, they are all preparing you for something greater. It may not be clear right now, but I promise you, this period of discomfort is not in vain. You might not see the way forward just yet. But what if the path is being paved right now in ways you can't even imagine? The challenges you face today are shaping you into the person you need to be to handle what comes next. Are you ready to trust the process? Are you ready to stop fighting the struggle and embrace it as part of your journey? Because that's when everything will start to change. Remember, every obstacle you face is a lesson in disguise. Each challenge, each moment of doubt, is preparing you for the success that is already on its way. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to trust that the pieces will come together in their own time. And like Alex, when you begin to see your struggles in this new light, you will start to feel the weight of doubt lift. The uncertainty will still be there, but you'll find peace in knowing that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You are exactly where you need to be. The transformation is already happening. Trust in it. Have you ever felt like you were waiting for something to happen, but it never does? That feeling of being stuck in time, as if the world is moving on and you're left behind, desperately waiting for a sign, a breakthrough, anything. We all go through moments when waiting seems unbearable, when everything feels stagnant and you wonder if anything will ever change. Have you felt this way too? That sense of frustration, the nagging thought that you might never reach your dreams? Alex felt this way. They were doing everything right, working hard, making sacrifices, but progress seemed slow. It felt like they were stuck, endlessly waiting for something to shift. Every day was a repeat of the last. The feeling of being forgotten, of being overlooked, haunted them. Every morning they hoped today would be different. And isn't that how it feels sometimes? You work so hard, yet the results are just out of reach. You see others moving forward, achieving their goals, while you feel like you're standing still. But here's the truth. The waiting period isn't a time of nothingness. It's a time of growth. While Alex was caught in their frustration, they couldn't see the deeper truth. Every moment of waiting was preparing them for something bigger. The patience they were building, the lessons they were learning, would shape them into the person they needed to be to handle the blessings they were about to receive. Patience is hard. How many times have you felt like giving up because nothing was happening? It's a natural part of life. You do everything right and still you feel like the universe is ignoring you. But that's not the case. The waiting is preparing you. You see, when we're in this phase of life, we often focus too much on the end result. But what if the process of waiting is the most important part of the journey? Alex was so focused on the outcome that they couldn't see the valuable lessons being learned in the meantime. The growth that happens during the waiting period isn't always obvious. It's a subtle, slow transformation, but it's happening nonetheless. Just like a seed that is buried underground, unseen but growing roots, the waiting period strengthens you for what's ahead. Alex didn't understand this at first. They were discouraged, thinking that the lack of immediate results meant failure. But the truth was, the waiting wasn't a sign of stagnation, it was the preparation phase. In fact, the longer you wait, the more resilient you become. Isn't that true for you too? When you're in the waiting period, it might feel like nothing is happening, but in reality, you're building resilience. You're learning patience, endurance, and faith that the universe will deliver in its own time. And here's another key point. The waiting period gives you the space to reflect and realign with your purpose. How often do we rush toward goals without fully understanding why we want them? The waiting forces you to slow down, to reflect, to reassess. In that space, you'll find clarity. You'll understand what truly matters to you. Alex began to understand that the waiting wasn't something to fear. It wasn't a sign of failure. It was an opportunity to reconnect with their purpose, to trust the process, and to become the person they were meant to be. The waiting period, no matter how frustrating, is necessary. It strengthens your faith, sharpens your focus, and prepares you for what's to come. Alex didn't realize it, but the frustration, the doubts, and the struggles were preparing them for the transformation that lay ahead. So, if you're feeling stuck right now, take a deep breath. This waiting period is not in vain. It's a crucial part of your journey. You are growing, even if it doesn't feel like it. Trust in the process. The moment you've been waiting for is closer than you think. Remember, the universe doesn't forget you. It's preparing you for something bigger. Don't give up now. Keep waiting, keep believing, and keep growing. Have you ever felt like you were standing still in life, watching everyone around you move forward? The frustration builds as days pass and you feel trapped in an unchanging cycle. You've worked so hard, put in the hours, given it your all, but nothing seems to change. This is the waiting period. In this chapter of life, there is no instant gratification. It's the uncomfortable phase where you feel like progress is stagnant and every effort seems to be met with resistance. It's a period of uncertainty, self-doubt, and frustration. Alex was living in that very moment, trapped in the waiting game. The dreams, the goals they once felt so sure about now felt out of reach. They had taken every step possible, worked tirelessly, but still there was no sign of change, no breakthrough, no recognition. Just an overwhelming sense of stagnation. The frustration was suffocating. Every day they woke up with a sense of hope, only to feel it slipping away by the end of the day when nothing seemed to have shifted. How much longer could they go on like this? You see, when you're in the waiting period, it's easy to believe that your efforts are futile. The lack of results can make you question your worth, your decisions, and even the dreams you once held so tightly. And maybe you've felt that too. Have you ever thought, what's the point of all this effort if nothing is changing? It's a question many of us ask when we find ourselves waiting for something that feels like it will never come. The impatience begins to creep in. The doubt gnaws at your confidence. But here's the painful truth. This waiting period is crucial. Alex didn't see it at first. They were frustrated, angry, and confused. They were stuck in a loop of disappointment, questioning whether they were on the right path. Why weren't things happening? Why did the universe seem to be ignoring them? But this is where the transformation begins. The waiting period is not a dead zone. It's not wasted time. It's a time of growth, an often uncomfortable and invisible kind of growth. You might not feel it now, but you are becoming stronger, more resilient, and more prepared for what's coming next. Imagine a seed that's buried deep in the soil. It may seem like nothing is happening at first, but beneath the surface, the roots are growing, expanding, preparing for the eventual bloom. The seed doesn't know when it will break through the surface and become a plant, but it trusts that the time will come. Similarly, the waiting period allows you to grow your roots, even if you can't see the progress right away. Alex felt the pressure building. Every day they asked themselves, is this it? Is this all there is? Have I reached the end of the road? The questions echoed in their mind, and the answers seemed nowhere to be found. And then came the moment of self-doubt, the creeping thought that maybe they were just chasing an illusion. What if this dream isn't meant for me? What if I'm just not good enough? Does that sound familiar? That voice of doubt? It's louder when you're waiting for something to happen. When you don't see results, you begin to question everything. But the truth is, this self-doubt is part of the journey. Every great transformation involves overcoming the doubts that stand in the way. But here's something important. The waiting period doesn't last forever. It feels endless, but it's only a chapter in your story. You will break through this. Patience, even though difficult, is the key to surviving this period. Alex didn't know it yet, but the struggles they were facing were shaping them for something much bigger. In the waiting period, we learn patience, not just for the world around us, but also for ourselves. How often do we expect immediate results? We want to see everything happening right away, whether it's success in our careers, personal growth, or relationships. But that's not how life works. True growth happens in the quiet, the unseen moments. The times when you feel like nothing is happening. In these moments, you learn the most about who you are, what you're capable of, and how much you can endure. The waiting period might make you feel invisible, as if your efforts don't matter. But remember, just like the seed under the soil, you're growing. But there's another crucial part to this. Faith. Faith that the right time will come. Faith that the universe, or whatever higher power you believe in, has a plan for you. Alex, in their frustration, forgot about the faith. They were too focused on what they could see right now, the lack of change. But sometimes, the waiting period is about learning to trust that the change is already happening. Even if it's not visible yet, you may not see it, but the waiting is helping you become more capable of handling what's ahead. Every small step, every day spent waiting is shaping you. You are being prepared. And while Alex didn't see it at first, as time passed, they began to notice subtle shifts. Small signs that things were starting to align. Not big results yet, but things were moving slowly, carefully, in their own time. Isn't it true that we often don't see the change until we look back? It's in those moments when you feel like nothing is happening that you are growing the most. During the waiting period, you are building your foundation. Just like a skyscraper takes time to build, but its strength lies in the foundation, your life is being built on solid ground in these moments of waiting. So, if you are in the waiting period, don't despair. This is the time to let go of the impatience and instead embrace the growth. Trust that the universe has a plan and that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Change is coming, and while you wait, remember this: patience is not passive. It's an active process, one that requires strength, faith, and resilience. It's the key to unlocking your transformation. The moment will come when you finally see the breakthrough, but right now, in the waiting period, you are being prepared for it. Trust in that. Don't rush the process. Embrace the waiting. Have you ever experienced a moment where everything suddenly makes sense? Like a light bulb flicking on after days, months, or even years of uncertainty. In that moment, you realize all the pain, all the struggles, and all the waiting weren't in vain. They were pieces of a greater plan. And when it clicks, you understand you were never really lost. For Alex, this moment had finally come. The days of confusion, fear, and doubt had led to one singular, life-changing moment. That moment of realization when the fog finally lifts and clarity washes over you. It was almost as if the universe had been quietly waiting for Alex to wake up and see the truth they had been too blind to recognize before. But it wasn't just a random epiphany. It was the culmination of years of struggle, heartache, and soul-searching. It wasn't something that could have happened sooner. It had to unfold in its own time. Just like the seasons, change came at its own pace, and when it arrived, It was nothing short of miraculous. It all started on a seemingly ordinary evening. The sky had turned a deep shade of orange as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the landscape. Alex sat by the window, lost in thought, staring out at the changing colors of the sky. It was the kind of evening that seemed to beg for reflection. It felt like the universe was speaking to them, and for the first time in a long while, Alex was willing to listen. And in that silence, something began to stir inside Alex. A question that had been on their mind for weeks, but it wasn't a question about the future or a question about success. It was a deeper question. It was about purpose. Why am I here? They asked aloud, the question carrying weight that was almost tangible. What is this all for? What is the purpose behind all the struggle? The question wasn't new. Alex had asked themselves this countless times before, but this time it felt different. This time it felt as though something inside them was finally ready to hear the answer. The question lingered in the air, and with it the possibility of a revelation, something they had long been waiting for. And then, in the stillness, it happened. The answer didn't come as a booming voice or some grand revelation from the heavens. It came softly, quietly, as a gentle whisper in the depths of Alex's soul. But it was so profound that it changed everything. Everything you've been through, the voice seemed to say, has been leading you here. You are not just waiting, you are being prepared. It took Alex a moment to fully comprehend. Prepared? Prepared for what? Had all the pain, the uncertainty, and the disappointments been for nothing but preparation? Was everything they had been through simply a test, a trial to prepare them for something greater? At first, Alex wasn't sure. It didn't make sense. Why had they had to suffer so much? Why had life seemed so cruel at times? But as the moments passed, the realization began to settle in. It wasn't just about surviving the struggle. It wasn't about reaching some final destination and calling it success. It was about the transformation that happened in the process. All those moments of pain, all the heartache, all the waiting, they had served one essential purpose: to shape Alex into the person they were always meant to become. Alex had spent so long measuring their life by outcomes, by the things they could see, touch, and count. The success at work, the material things, the accolades. But now, in this moment of clarity, they understood something deeper. True growth wasn't measured by what they achieved outwardly, but by who they became inside. All the challenges, the rejections, the failures, they weren't signs that they were on the wrong path. They were the very things that had been molding them, strengthening them, and preparing them for the future. They were the tools that had been sharpening Alex's mind and heart, making them resilient and ready for whatever life would throw their way. And then the full weight of it hit them. They were no longer the person they had been when they started this journey. Their past, filled with confusion and despair, had shaped them, yes, but it had also made them stronger, wiser, and more aware of their own potential. The person they were becoming was someone who could handle anything life presented, someone who could walk with grace and purpose through the trials and the triumphs. At this point, Alex finally understood what their struggle had been about. The waiting period wasn't a punishment. It wasn't some cruel joke. It was preparation. This truth was like a balm to Alex's weary soul. It didn't erase all the pain, but it made it feel worthwhile. All the sleepless nights, the doubts, the moments when Alex thought they might not make it, those had not been for nothing. They had been preparing Alex for this very moment. But what does being prepared actually look like? How does it feel to know you've been transformed, even if you can't yet see the final picture? Alex wasn't entirely sure, but they knew that things had shifted. They weren't the same person they had been a week ago, a month ago, or even a year ago. The waiting had changed them, the suffering had shaped them, and now they were ready for whatever came next. The future which had once seemed so uncertain, now felt like an open door. What if, like Alex, you are in the midst of your own transformation? What if everything you've gone through, every disappointment, every failure, isn't a sign that you're on the wrong path, but a part of your preparation? You might not see it now, but the truth is you are being prepared. The waiting isn't for nothing. It's for something greater, something you can't yet fully understand but will someday realize. The struggles aren't obstacles, they are stepping stones. Every challenge, every setback is a lesson that is shaping you into the person you need to be in order to fulfill your purpose. And when that realization hits, it will be like a weight lifting off your shoulders. The waiting won't feel like a burden anymore. The struggle won't feel like a punishment. Instead, it will feel like an essential part of your journey. Because it is. Alex sat by the window staring out at the sky, but this time they weren't filled with doubt. They weren't wondering if they were on the right path. They knew they were. The fog had lifted, and for the first time in a long time, they could see the path clearly ahead. But the revelation didn't just stop there. The moment of clarity was just the beginning. What followed was the realization that even though Alex had made it this far, there was still more to do, more to learn, and more to discover about themselves. They weren't done yet. In fact, they were only getting started. The transformation was ongoing and the journey wasn't over. In many ways, it was only just beginning. Alex had spent so much of their life trying to figure out what the future held, trying to control every aspect of their journey. But now they realized that the future wasn't something to control, it was something to embrace. The journey itself was the reward, and in this moment of revelation, Alex could finally say with certainty, they were ready. Ready for the next chapter, ready for the next challenge, ready for the next transformation, and most importantly, ready to embrace the unknown with an open heart. Are you ready too? If you're still in the midst of waiting, still in the middle of the struggle, remember this: it's not for nothing. You are being prepared. The pain, the doubt, the moments of feeling lost, they are all leading you to the moment when you too will have your revelation. You will see that all the waiting was never a waste, and you will understand, as Alex did, that you were never truly lost. You were always exactly where you needed to be. The transformation, a new beginning, expanded to 1,200 word _ Chapter 5. The Transformation, a New Beginning, Part 1. In construct, inspire. Discover. Discover is a verbal collaboration tool. Discover is a verbal collaboration tool. An executive is the go-between here and there. Have you ever experienced a moment where you felt the shift? A moment when everything you've gone through, all the pain, the waiting, and the uncertainty, suddenly made sense? When you realized that all your struggles were shaping you into something greater, something more powerful? For Alex, that moment had arrived. After weeks, months, or maybe even years of searching for answers, the transformation finally began. It wasn't just a change in circumstances, it was a deep internal shift, a spiritual awakening that would redefine the very core of their existence. Alex had spent much of their life feeling lost, disconnected from their true self. Life was a constant struggle, and they never seemed to find solid ground. Every dream felt out of reach, and every attempt to make progress was met with setbacks. But everything changed in that defining moment when they realized that they had been preparing for this moment all along. It's funny how life works, isn't it? You can be so caught up in your pain and confusion that you fail to see the bigger picture. But the moment you step back, you realize that every hardship, every moment of doubt has led you to this very point. Alex was starting to understand that now. The transformation wasn't about escaping their struggles. It was about embracing them, learning from them, and using them as stepping stones to a more empowered life. As Alex stood in front of the mirror, looking at themselves with new eyes, they could feel the change happening within. It was almost as if their entire being had been rewired, as if all the negative energy, the doubts and the insecurities had been replaced with something stronger, more resilient. They no longer felt the need to apologize for their imperfections. They embraced their flaws, their past mistakes, and their imperfections as part of their story. They had learned that these were not signs of weakness, but symbols of strength. Before the transformation, Alex was trapped in the cycle of fear. They feared not being enough, not achieving enough, and not living up to the expectations of others. But now they stood with a sense of power. It wasn't about what others thought of them anymore. It wasn't about how much they had accomplished or how much approval they had received. What mattered now was that they understood their worth, not based on the opinions of others, but based on their own realization of their potential. Alex was beginning to see life through a completely new lens. Where they once saw failure, they now saw growth. Where they had once been discouraged by setbacks, they now felt empowered by them. Each failure was no longer a roadblock. It was a lesson. Each challenge, no matter how big or small, was a chance to learn, to grow, and to evolve into a better version of themselves. But this wasn't just an emotional transformation, it was physical too. Alex felt more energized, more alive, more connected to the world around them. They noticed how the little things, the warmth of the sun on their skin, the sound of laughter, the beauty of a quiet moment, now filled them with a sense of wonder. They no longer took these moments for granted. They understood now that life was a series of small, beautiful moments strung together, and it was up to them to make the most of each one. The transformation also began to affect their relationships. Before, Alex had always struggled with connecting to others. They had built walls around themselves, afraid to let anyone see the real them. But now they felt an openness within that allowed them to connect on a deeper level. Their vulnerability, once seen as a weakness, had become a strength. They were no longer afraid to show who they really were, flaws and all. As Alex started to embrace this new version of themselves, something magical began to happen. They began to attract like-minded people, people who were also on their own journeys of transformation, people who understood that life wasn't about perfection, it was about growth. And in this new energy, Alex felt the support of a community that had always been there, but they had never been open to before. But the most powerful part of this transformation? It was spiritual. Alex had come to realize that they were not just an individual seeking fulfillment, they were part of a greater whole. Life, they understood now, was a beautiful tapestry of interconnectedness. Every soul they encountered, every lesson they learned, Alex's newfound sense of purpose came from this realization. They no longer felt the need to chase external validation or approval. They understood that their true purpose came from within. It was the desire to grow, to be better, and to use their transformation to make the world a better place. They no longer felt lost, no longer sought the approval of others, because they were finally able to approve of themselves. This was not just a moment of self-love. This was a revolution. It was the beginning of something monumental, something that would carry them forward for the rest of their life. Alex could feel it in their bones. The change that had started as a small spark was now a raging fire. But as powerful as this transformation was, Alex knew that it wasn't the end of the journey. It was just the beginning. Transformation isn't a destination, it's a continual process. There would be more lessons to learn, more challenges to face, and more growth to experience. But Alex was no longer afraid of what lay ahead. They had the strength, the wisdom, and the belief that they could handle anything life threw their way. They had discovered that true power lies not in avoiding challenges, but in facing them head-on, armed with the wisdom gained from their past struggles. Alex knew they were no longer the person they had once been. They had shed the layers of fear and doubt and had emerged as a new, stronger version of themselves. And as they looked into the mirror once again, they could see the spark of someone who was ready to take on the world, someone who had found their purpose and was determined to walk it every day of their life. The world felt different now, filled with endless possibilities and opportunities. Alex was no longer bound by the limitations they once felt. They were free, and with that freedom, they stepped forward into their new life, ready to embrace everything it had to offer. And as they walked forward, they did so with confidence. They did so with hope. They did so with purpose. And they did so with the deep understanding that their transformation had only just begun. Waiting can be the hardest part of any journey. It's the silent phase when nothing seems to happen, but everything is changing beneath the surface. For Alex, this waiting period felt like an endless struggle. Each day passed slowly, with no clear sign of the breakthrough they were hoping for. Frustration built up and doubt crept in. Was the change ever going to happen? Or was it all just a dream? The uncertainty was difficult to bear. It seemed like the world around Alex was moving forward. People were achieving their goals, making progress, while they were left behind, stuck in the same place. They had put in so much effort, but the results didn't seem to reflect it. The waiting felt like a test of patience and faith. It's natural to want results quickly, but transformation doesn't happen on a timeline we control. The waiting was necessary. Alex's struggles were part of a deeper process, one that wasn't visible on the surface. While it felt like nothing was changing, something powerful was happening inside. During this waiting period, Alex began to feel stuck. The same questions and fears kept repeating in their mind. Am I doing enough? Will I ever reach my goal? Each day felt like a repeat of the last, with no clear direction forward. Yet deep down, there was an understanding that this phase was essential for growth. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and trust in the process. Patience was the hardest lesson to learn, but it was also the most important. Alex began to realize that waiting wasn't just a passive experience. It was an active process of building resilience, learning to trust that change was on its way. The struggle wasn't a sign of failure. It was a sign that they were moving through something difficult to prepare for the next step. Though the frustration often seemed overwhelming, there was a subtle shift happening within Alex. They started to shift their perspective, understanding that waiting didn't mean nothing was happening. Every moment of doubt was an opportunity to grow. Every moment of uncertainty was a step toward clarity. In those quiet moments of waiting, Alex learned to appreciate the stillness. It wasn't about rushing to the next phase, but about being present in the current one. The frustration didn't go away, but Alex began to see it differently. It was part of the process, part of what needed to happen to bring them to the next stage. They realized that they weren't stuck in a void. They were building strength, resilience, and patience. Waiting taught Alex how to be patient with themselves, how to trust that even when nothing seemed to be happening on the outside, growth was occurring on the inside. It was the patience to endure the silence, knowing that eventually their efforts would lead to results. They began to let go of the need for immediate gratification and focused on what was happening in the present moment. There were times when Alex wanted to give up. The frustration of feeling stuck was overwhelming, but they stayed focused, trusting the change was coming. They had to learn to let go of control and trust that in time, everything would fall into place. And one day, it did. The waiting ended not with a dramatic moment, but with a quiet realization. They were ready. The patience, the endurance, the trust. Everything had prepared them for what was next. They had built the inner strength to continue, to keep moving forward despite the uncertainty. The waiting had shaped them, refined them, and made them ready for the transformation that lay ahead. The waiting was not wasted. As we near the end of Alex's journey, we come to a powerful realization. The story isn't just about them. It's about you. Just like Alex, you have the power to transform your life, to overcome obstacles, and to create a future that is filled with purpose and strength. The same journey they took, the one filled with struggles, waiting, and revelation, is available to you too. We often think that transformation is a far-off dream, something only achievable for others. But the truth is, change is possible for anyone, including you. You have the strength within you right now to take the first step toward your own transformation. Whether you are in a period of waiting, uncertainty, or frustration, know that every moment is a part of your growth. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. You may not see the changes immediately, just as Alex didn't at first, but like them, you are being prepared for something greater. The waiting, the doubts, the moments when it feels like nothing is happening, all of these are necessary for you to become the person you are meant to be. You are not stuck. You are growing, even when it feels like nothing is changing. Your time is coming. So, what can you do right now? Take action. Take that first step, however small it may be. It could be something simple, a decision to believe in yourself, to set a goal, to take a moment to reflect on your journey so far. Every choice you make from this point on is a part of your transformation. Your actions today are shaping the person you will become tomorrow. Just as Alex experienced their breakthrough, so too can you. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment or the right conditions. The time to begin your transformation is now. Trust that the changes you seek are already unfolding, even if you can't see them yet. The process may not always be easy, but it is worth it. Embrace the journey, knowing that each step is bringing you closer to the person you are meant to become. Remember, you are not alone. The challenges you face are not the end of the road. They are the beginning of something beautiful. Every struggle you encounter is shaping you into a stronger, wiser, more empowered individual. And when you look back, you will see that the waiting, the struggle, and the perseverance were the very things that made you who you are. So, take that step. Embrace your transformation. Believe in yourself, because you are capable of creating a future beyond your wildest dreams. The best is yet to come.